You missed us. Admit it. Welcome, everyone, to the Cluster Puck Podcast, a Thursday edition, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Beside me here is Brit. How's it going, Brit?
Good. It's going good. How are you?
Very good. 4th of July. How was your Independence Day? Did you do anything fun?
No, Michael and Mac went camping. I stayed home because our dog was sick, but our neighbors are very big firework people, so I listened to everybody else enjoy it thoroughly. Did you do
There you
anything
go.
fun?
Yeah. So my wife's family held their party on the 3rd, so I took the 3rd, the Monday off, and we
It
went
was
up
weird having it
to.
in the middle of the week. It was like, when do
It
we
was a bit strange, so I just decided, you know what, it's gonna be weird that day, so I just took it off for my
Yeah.
day job. I'm an architect by profession, right? So took that off, and then we went up to Logan, Utah, where her family's from, and we had a big celebration with their extended family. And then for the 4th, we came back down to Orem and did the actual big fireworks celebration with my parents and my family down at their place just a few minutes down the road. So a lot of fun. I did get I think a piece of ash or debris or something in my eye, because same as you, I have neighbors that just, they go get the big fireworks,
Yeah.
right? So we were just watching it straight up in the air, and a
Nice.
piece of ash or some kind of debris got in my eye, and it
That's
took so long for it to get out, and I thought I would for sure was going to be blind the rest of my life. Oh my gosh, I was so scared.
Oh my
But
God.
we got it. Everything's fine. Just
Good
maybe
times.
goggles next time. Well,
Other
before we
people
get
say
started, let's go ahead and sign on here. So if you like what you see here, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and now Threads, that new platform called Threads at the Cluster Puck Avs. And then you can follow us on Facebook at the Cluster Puck Podcast. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows just like ours go live, so you don't miss a thing regarding the Colorado Avalanche and any other Denver sports news. Number one fan-led podcast, as our new banner said. That's pretty cool. So, wow, where to begin, Britt? I don't even know. There, see,
my
like
light is
even the camera is just trying to figure out what to do with all this information. So, I guess
wow.
let's tackle the draft first, because that one's probably going to be the easiest one to go through because of just we'll just go through our couple first round picks, right? So nothing
Yeah.
too crazy.
That's what I figured. We'll just kind of do a brief overview, and then we'll dive into these people a little bit deeper down the road. We've got a lot of summertime. It's officially the dog days of the hockey season. So.
That's exactly right. So the Avalanche, we kept 2 of those 3 early picks. We traded one away, and we'll get to that one in a second. But we kept the 2 first round picks, which, first of all, I'm very shocked.
Yeah, I think most people were. I think most people anticipated at the very least we would trade away that later. It was an early second round pick or a later first round pick.
One of the 2 we thought were for sure out.
Yeah. So, but it is good that we're looking out for our future. I mean, we do still have to keep prospects. Even though it seems like the Avs are very good at refilling their prospect pool with college free agents, but it is good to have young, fresh talent, because with those college free agents like Polinsky, is that his name? I can never remember his name, but like he's almost 25 years old. So I mean, those guys are kind of make or break pretty quick. Guys like Ben Myers, you got to figure it out quick. So it's good to have young talent, and we don't have a lot of it. We used a lot of it to win the cup, and I definitely take the cup over having some of those guys. But eventually, we have to bring in new blood. So.
Yes, 100%. So pick number. So both first round picks, we had the 27th and the 31st. With the 27th pick, the Colorado Avalanche picked Callum Ritchie, a center from the Oshawa Generals of the OHL. So the one thing, and I did some looking after we drafted him and whatnot, and this guy, he may not be the quickest. He's I guess for a center, you could call him slightly undersized in like the weight.
Yeah,
like,
he's 6'2", 187, so
yeah,
he's all up. No,
not the height, but exactly. Yeah, he's there, but he maybe get the kid a sandwich or two, and then he'll. But the one thing I saw from him is that he reads the ice
Yeah,
beautifully.
very high hockey IQ.
He's got a very high hockey IQ, which is very promising. So I thought it was a really good pick. A lot of people put Callum Ritchie at about 22nd to 24th of being picked. So the fact that he was able to go 27th is great. Like to see, like I said, his development, especially with these camps that are happening now.
Right. So the development camp is happening right now for Colorado. And I mean, it sounds like he was a second overall pick for the OHL. And he did have an injury. He was anticipated to go earlier in the draft prior to the injury. So depending on how he develops physically and recovering from that injury, he had like a shoulder injury, I think it was. If that recovers well, it might be a huge hit. He is a center. And as we all know, centers are worth their weight in gold. So
they are.
He gains some weight, and he could be one of those, late round dudes that ends up being like, why did he make it that far in the draft? So we'll see. But it sounds like worst case scenario, he should still be an NHL player.
It looks like it, yeah, and you are correct. He played 59 games just this last season with the Generals. He only played two seasons with them, actually. But get this, I think both of which were stopped short. But this last season, 59 games, 59 points.
Yeah.
Point per game type of player. So definitely one to keep an eye on because he has the stats to prove himself to become something fantastic at bare minimum for the Eagles.
Right, especially when he's doing that in the OHL.
Exactly. If he's able to do this type of stuff with Oshawa, I have a lot of promise. At least it shows a lot to me that he is able to take that to the next step. It's just about getting himself into NHL type form physically more than anything.
Yeah, and that's heard that above all else, he's also like a seriously driven person because he essentially fought through the shoulder issues. Had he not played this season, he essentially would have destroyed his draft chances. It would have really, really affected his career because if you miss your draft season, it's catastrophic to your career. So he essentially played and fought through that just so he could make sure that he got in this draft. And so that's what he did while playing through shoulder injuries. And as a center, your shoulders are relatively important, you would think. So
just slightly.
He definitely has the drive. And I mean, I know that you don't want to encourage people playing hurt, but it shows that he's got that tenacity and that really, really strong drive to accomplish what he wants to. So hopefully it doesn't have long-term effects, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then with the 31st pick in that first round, the Colorado Avalanche picked Mikhail Gulyayev. Gulyayev?
Awful.
Gulyayev, something.
Gulyayev, I think, is the fast-flowing, very American way to say it.
And I think that's how it is, but we'll say Gulyayev for now. My wife, who lived in Russia, will come and probably kick my butt later, but at least I'll have it in the books for Gulyayev. From Russia, he played at the KHL of Angard Omsk. And the one thing, again, after looking at this kid, even though he is slightly undersized for a defenseman, he is outrageously fast.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's just kind of he's snarl. Is that the politically correct word that we use now? He's got snarl. Yeah. Sounds like he's a bully is what it is. Like
he dictates the game, you know, for not only with his speed, but he muscles. He's the muscle type deal. So maybe like points aren't exactly your go get him option for him, but then again, he's a defenseman, so that's not exactly the priority. But with him, he's the on ice general, he's the one who controls that type of pace. He's, and even in these little camps that we've seen just now, I've seen Gulyayev and he has been really, really promising.
Yeah, it sounds like his skating is just a huge, huge, huge factor with this. He could be it sounds like he has a higher ceiling than than our other draft picks. But one other issue is that he is signed in the KHL through 2025. So with that, that's always kind of that mystery aspect. But it's nice too to know that through 2025 you have people trickling into your system. You know, and it gives them time to develop, and that league is very good. So it's not like they're going to go backwards in their development. It's a good place to learn to play hockey. So.
Yep, I agree. So those are our two, I guess, newest additions, our little puppies to the Avalanche roster. So we want to welcome both of them to the squad. And that was, I mean, we had a few other picks, but those were kind of the two highlights that we wanted to touch on today, before we now get into free agency. This is going to be the meat and potatoes of the episode, folks. So buckle up. So do we want to talk about, Brit, who came in, or do we want to talk about who left? Because let's talk about those who left first, because I just want to rip the Band-Aid off and be done with it. So the big ones that I had leaving were, first, Eric Johnson signed a 1-year deal with the Buffalo Sabres for around $3 million.
Yeah.
So, first of which is, I'm very upset that he is no longer with the Avalanche. It was very sad to see.
My light is just determined to kill me today.
However, I do kind of get that whole, oh, EJ, you dog. Like, I feel like you squeezed $3 million out of the Sabres.
Yeah, I was meaning to look.
One more year.
I don't know exactly what they're looking to get out of it. I mean, I'm sure that we want that veteran presence, because the defensive presence on the ice is not there anymore. So yeah. I imagine, they're a young team. They're up and coming. Eventually they should, they're not going to be fighting for the bottom anymore. They're definitely on the upswing of their rebuild. They're just looking for a veteran presence, to guide their young locker room. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, if he can even stay healthy. I mean, that's a lot of money for him. It's honestly very shocking. When I saw that, I thought, okay, that's why we didn't even bother trying to re-sign him, I guess, because I would have been comfortable re-signing him at like league min, like 800,000. I wasn't prepared to pay anything over like 1.25. So we weren't even in the same world as far as and you don't know what other offers get out there. So it sucks, but also, he's got to do what he's got to do. And he has been in Colorado for 12 or 13 years. They might just be ready for an adventure. Yeah. I don't think that they have kids, do they? Him and his wife might just be ready to bounce.
Something around there. But this one screams he was just trying to grab as much as he could. And you even saw it on, he posted a big thank you letter and stuff like that, which was very nice of him. And what was kind of shocking is that he actually, at the very beginning of all this, his tenure with the Avs, he never wanted to be traded to Colorado.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But then he said it was the greatest thing to ever happen to him, which is kind of funny. But and then he also mentioned he wanted to finish his career with the Avs. He wanted something to work out, but just things don't happen that way. However, I am still very confident he'll come back.
And even if I could see them totally doing like the 1-day trade or whatever, so that he retires now, like just with him and his longevity within all Denver sports, with him having a longer career than all other Denver athletes, there's no way that we let him retire in, obscurity. I just don't.
Yes, I agree. So thank you, EJ, the Condor, for all that you've done for Colorado. We very much appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck in Buffalo. Next, and this one, I knew the writing was on the wall for at least these next two, but I wasn't expecting the destinations. So let's talk about it. The first one is JT Compher signed was it a 5-year deal with the Detroit Red Wings?
What, a 5x5?
I think it was a 5x5.1 or something like that.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw that, it was like, okay, bye, girl. I think that's why I texted you. It was like, see you later.
You were like, okay, thanks, bye. So
yeah, I would not have been comfortable with that for him by any stretch of the imagination.
I agree 100%.
Long commitment with a lot of money. I mean, that's I mean, granted, it's not second line center money, but for 5 years, it's a lot of money.
Yep.
So you hate to see him go, but
you do,
if that's what we're looking at, then it had to happen.
Exactly, right. So with him, I thought for sure, I knew, as stuff was kind of happening and whatnot, I kind of knew he was already on his way out, because we just can't offer him what other teams would. And Detroit, man, they were out there picking apples in the orchard, man. They were going after everything.
Yeah.
And they land JT Compher, which does surprise me, because I thought for sure JT Compher was actually going to go to the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Because he's being a Chicago native, Chicago has that money to play around with.
Right. And that's what Compher doesn't, which Compher is just, he's almost like too unnotable. He just doesn't really seem like he would fit in that like Yzerman style plan, the Yzer plan, like his genre of guys. But honestly, where does he really fit other than Colorado? He's so easygoing and there's just nothing terribly notable about him. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Detroit has a lot of personalities, and they're in an interesting position in their rebuild. They brought
in a lot of different types of talent. Yeah.
Know exactly where they're sitting this year in their rebuild, like if they anticipate trying to be a playoff team this year, which I can imagine, but we'll see. He definitely did dedicate himself though to not winning a Stanley Cup for the next 5 years. So, I don't know.
Well, don't hold your breath, and we say that now, but it doesn't seem likely. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
So again, thank you, JT, for your time as a long-standing Avalancheman. We wish you the best of luck in Detroit.
It's hard to be one thing of the original. Like he's one of the OGs.
He's one of those OGs. He's the one that you kind of just and JT. Yep.
He's very not notable.
Yep. So which it is too bad, because I'm a big fan of just the Compher family, like
oh, for sure,
like Jess Compher and stuff. Yeah. She plays for the United States national team. She's awesome. So it's gonna suck to not have her in the family,
Yeah, oh my gosh. One of the podcasts, I don't know if it's DNVR, but they'll occasionally call JT Compher Jesse's brother.
Jesse's brother.
It's kind of funny. Yep, he's got a lot of personality. And I mean, he has personality, but he's not, there's a lot of personality on the Avs, and she's got a lot too. So their whole family, and they were pretty ingrained in Colorado for not being a Colorado family. So it's a bummer to see them go. But it was the same thing with Jost, those families that you fall in love with just as much as the players. So
okay, the next one, and this one I was really holding out to the end, but then as soon as a few other signings happened, I had to come to the realization. Evan Rodriguez signed a 4-year deal, $3 million per year with the Florida Panthers. Yeah. This one I am banging my head against a wall.
It's the only one that all of them, when I saw their contracts or when I saw where they went, I thought, okay, yeah, that's why. But when he was gone and I saw the contract and I saw where he
saw the year and the amount,
why the hell couldn't we do that? And I'm just curious, did we know that was on the table? Did we know that that's what he was looking for? You got to wonder what the communication is prior to them not being, not being signed with the Avs. This one really bummed me out. I think a lot of people, it really bummed them out. So I don't know. People have their issues with him disappearing, and I really think he was worth keeping. A lot of people talk about, I think, Miles Wood essentially being his replacement, but I don't know. There was something about Erod, and maybe it was just those shootout goals. They just won me, and I can't go back. But I don't like him leaving for $3 million for 3 years. That's an easily variable contract. There's just no reason that I feel like we should have missed that risk. But I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. So and that's just it, because there were so many times where I was thinking, we could offer him that, and that's the thing. It's free agency, right? Mm-hmm. So anything could happen. He could pick wherever he wants. So it's totally possible that the Avs wanted to, offer him that stuff. Yeah. So, anyways, it is what it is. We get the 1 year deal with him. Moving on, let's see. Lars Eller signed a contract, a 2-year deal, $2.4 million with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
So this was one where it was like, we wanted Lars back, but
it didn't hurt.
This is one that doesn't hurt as bad because he was only there for half a year.
Yep.
Right.
But we did some combined shipping, and we can just include, we sent Nieto right in over with him. So, and that one hurts a little bit more. So the Penguins taking our boys.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think Lars Eller I think just about everybody was, we don't hate to see him go, but we wouldn't hate to see him stay. I mean, we just really didn't get a feel for him a whole lot. So not too emotional. Nieto, on the other hand, more emotional.
Yes. So Matt Nieto, he signed the 2-year deal as well with Pittsburgh, $900 million AAV. This one, he's kind of that locker room guy, He was fun to have, but at the same time, he didn't really.
I don't know. It's a sign.
He didn't really have a whole lot that he showed when he came back. Does that make sense?
No, really a whole lot. And if we didn't love him, we probably would have hated him. It's kind of exactly. We definitely put him in a lot of positions. There was times that he was playing in the second line. I think we even had him on the first line at times, and he's not a first liner. So he didn't have the best setup when he got to Colorado, but also, you got to do what you're asked to do, and it didn't really happen. So we'll get him back in a couple of years. We'll see how it works next time.
Yeah. And so we'll see in, like you said, 2 years, maybe even this next season when we
just
trade
getting
for
farther
him
and farther from home. He's about as far away from home now as he can be. So
that's correct. Let me see. We got those. Okay, so those were all the notable ones that left. So again, thank you very much to all of these players.
Helm is also somebody leaving the team. He did announce
that is one. Darren Helm did retire from professional hockey.
And I will forever go out of my way. I think he's 39, the hottest 30 whatever he is. I'm just going to go around Twitter and just continually correct people and say Darren Helm, Colorado Avalanche legend, because I like the discussion. Is he an Avalanche legend or a Red Wings legend? Because he scored legendary Detroit goals, but he also scored legendary Avalanche goals. So he is beloved. I think he spent 13 or 14 years with the Wings. So granted, they probably have a little bit more of an emotional attachment. I just like bugging them by calling him the Colorado Avalanche legend, Darren Helm, because he really,
because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't advance out of the second round last season, 2 seasons ago now, I guess. So really, he was a big part of that Stanley Cup run.
It's a shame that we didn't get him 2 years prior. If we could have had 3 legit Darren Helm years, or just been able to see him healthy for a fraction of last year. I almost wish he would have just retired after the Cup year, and he might too, or have just gone LTIR, but you can tell he just wanted to play some more hockey. The guy's made his money. He's played in the NHL for 15 years. He just really wanted to play some hockey, and his body absolutely would not let him. So it's a shame.
Yeah. So it would, like you said, it would have been nice to see what he could have done this last season, if that would have changed anything, especially with injuries. But, it's one of those things, and he's off to retirement, just what we thought EJ would do. It's instead Darren Helm, so we wish him the best. Okay, now let's talk about players coming in. So last week we already discussed Ryan Johansson was brought in as part of the team. Excuse me. There are a few others noteworthy, and we talked about, we mentioned one of them. So let's go ahead and start on that one, because this will also be our player spotlight. The Avalanche have signed Miles Wood, left winger, to a 6-year, $2.5 million contract. I know you have a lot to say about this, Brit, so I will let you off the leash and let you go.
Not a ton, but I think that a lot of people, when they saw that we signed him, we were just waiting to see what the contract the contract was going to come out as. And were you shocked to see 6 years, usually for a middle bottom 6, you don't sign them for 6 years. That's a long contract. But then when it's you take into account, it's only 2.5 AAV. So it's really you can bury it, you can buy it out, you can trade it, you can get rid of it somehow. But he very specifically said that he was seeking term, and he was excited to be playing for the Avs. So, and that's something that I find important is people who want to play for your team. And I think that's interesting too, because like the Coyotes said that they specifically sought out people who really wanted to play for them. And I was talking with this about my dad that's something that you'd think that teams would take into account more, like not having to force these guys dragging and kicking to come play for you. Having kids that grew up idolizing your team probably makes them want to stay, and that whole hometown discount idea might actually be worth something. But yeah, so 6 years. This is a guy, I was telling Nick, this is an easy transition somebody would get and that we're going to have for a long time. He was born in Buffalo, New York, but he grew up in Manchester, Massachusetts, which is funny because most hockey players, you'll see they were born somewhere, but if you're going to play in the NHL, generally, unless you're born into a hockey hub somewhere in Minnesota, and even then, you're generally out of your house living with a billet playing juniors somewhere else, even across the country by the time you're 13 or 14. So you'll see these guys with hometown ties all over the U.S., even though they're from, or Canada or wherever it be, even though they're from somewhere completely different. But yeah, so looks like he was mostly in Massachusetts. He did play in the Quebec International Pee Wee Hockey Tournament with the Middlesex Islanders. So that's an interesting tidbit. If you play hockey or if you listen to a lot of hockey media, you'll know that that's a very big deal. And Pee Wee, mind you, is like 11 to 12-ish year olds. So it's this huge important tournaments for like 11 and 12 year olds. And they basically treat them like NHL players. So he went to Boston College and then signed with the Devils, and he was with the Devils. He had his NHL debut in 2016. He was with them until we took him, and he is a very interesting character. I'm reading about him. It sounds like somebody that you're going to love and hate all at the same time. He's had some injuries. 21-22 season, he missed all but 3 games. He's 28 years old. He had an injury, but last year he was back for 76 games. He had 13 goals, 27 points. But his highest and most astounding statistic is that he had 76 penalty minutes last year. He is a very fast skater. And that's what he's speaking of bullies, like our draft pick. It sounds like this guy is just an absolute jerk in front of the net, which is something that the Avs kind of need. We're lacking that. Certainly especially with Landeskog being back. I talked about that a ton. Our net front presence in front of our own net and get like that garbage type stuff. We definitely need it. I found kind of an interesting statistic that he doesn't have a huge offensive like force, but it's not bad. He scored at a 16 goal rate over 82 goals for his career total. And if you put that into his statistics last year with the Avs, that would have put him at 7th last year for scoring. So he's really, if he can get his discipline in order, we might be able to turn him into a diamond in the rough. And I feel like the Avs, if they're good at anything, it's developing and polishing issues that guys have had in other teams. Generally, they seem to be able to draw out the best in guys, as opposed to some people go and flail under certain coaches. You got like a lot of those coaches that seem to really make guys struggle even more. I really feel like with the Avs that this might end up being a hit. And if you think about it with the cap going up and what we're going to be paying people in a couple of years, if we're paying some middle 6 guy $2.5 million, it could be one of the most value contracts that we've seen in a long time. So I'm curious to see how that'll go. I mean, he's coming into what should be his peak, not peak, but he should be maturing, that mindset where those guys kind of mature and figure out their games a little bit better. Worst case scenario, he just turns into a complete liability with penalties and can't figure it out. Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, especially with the AAV. I just wanted to read a super fast story that I read, since this is his spotlight. We'll make this his cutesy thing. So when he was 11 years old, he wrote a letter to the Washington Capitals star Alexander Ovechkin. So we're old enough that in our life, guys playing in the NHL, we're also guys that we grew up
writing
with.
fan letters.
So asking him to autograph his hockey card, in the letter, he promised that if Ovechkin did not sign and return the card, that he would check him in the first chance he got to play in him when he made it to NHL. Although Ovechkin never returned the card, he autographed a photo for Wood before facing him for the first time at Verizon Center. So I thought that was kind of fun. And like he's a professor, and it sounds like his family's pretty wholesome. So I just thought it was kind of funny that he's like 11 years old and threatening Alexander Ovechkin. So he's got some balls.
I will check you into the boards if you don't sign this card.
Yes, of all people, Alexander Ovechkin. So yeah,
that's
he's
pretty
certainly
funny.
not lacking confidence.
Well, very good. I agree with you though. So just looking at his stats, and you read off that stat line, I am of the opinion, just kind of like you, where that penalty minutes, we can tone that down. I feel like the Avalanche play with a style where he will be able to tone that down. But at the same time, it's nice to be able to have somebody that will stand up and fight for the team, right? Because we're not usually a hit first, ask questions later type thing. We are usually more of a retaliate once a fight breaks out type team. So to have an enforcer on the team, it's nice. But I feel like, with him, he'll quickly see that the priority is very different there. He'll still stand up for his own, but I think the Avalanche will be able to tone down that penalty minutes stat. And what's interesting about this there, just going with that last season where you said he had 13 goals and 27 points, I feel like we can get him to be a 20 goal, 40 point player.
And that's a good way to see it. The way, and this is maybe conceited or hopeful, but I feel like coming to the Avs is always going to uplift anybody who's struggled with different team styles, because the Avs have a fast offensive. We're going to uplift anybody that joins this team. Playing with McKinnon, Rantanen, Lehkonen, all of those guys is going to do nothing but help. We have a team that raises people up constantly. You don't see people flail with the Avs very often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think I'm right there. We're talking about Miles. Oh my gosh, can't even talk.
Miles Wood.
Miles Wood. Yep. Sorry, Tim.
Yep,
so Miles Wood
just hopped on. So
yep.
So anyway, I'm looking at the stats again. He is pumping out very identical numbers to JT Compher, right? And even Evan Rodriguez to the extent, right? Mm-hmm. So really, to find someone for half as much, we'll call half as much,
exactly,
and for him to be younger and stuff like that, to really push into his prime, I'm hopeful that this ends up being a real diamond in the rough situation, because right now you at least know you're getting Compher-esque, when it's not a contract year.
The offense isn't non-existent. It's not that we need him to score more and get less penalties. We really just need to hone in on that discipline and maintain. And if he does hone in on that discipline, all that's going to mean is more ice time, and eventually it's going to lead to more goals.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So he'll fit in that role as your third line left winger, right? But the good news is we're starting to go back to getting deep, like a really deep team. So that's just the tip of the iceberg for that. And I think for him on the third line to be paired with this next man, which we'll talk about, is going to be fantastic. So welcome, Miles. Welcome to the Avalanche. Next guy, and this one's interesting. The Avalanche traded away, first of all, that was another person that we should have probably brought up. Alex Newhook is no longer with the Avalanche.
Yes. Oh, did we not talk about that on the last
I think we totally forgot that one. So yeah, he's with the Canadians now. We traded him for a second round pick, that early second round pick, what would have been this year's draft, and another prospect player.
Fairbrother, which he's at dev camp right now.
Fairbrother. Yes. And with that second round pick we got, we immediately flipped that pick and traded it to the Tampa Bay Lightning for the restricted free agent rights of Ross Colton. Coming at all, to be completely honest with you. That one kind of took me by surprise.
No, I don't think absolutely anybody did, which is like, it's so annoying to even try to predict anything that the Avs are going to do, because they don't do anything predictable at all.
Yeah.
I think Newhook getting traded was something that we all thought was a possibility, but for Ross Colton, I don't think anybody even thought that was on the table. I mean, we knew that Tampa was going to be sellers, but Never would have fathomed we would be doing deals with the people we beat in the Stanley Cup. You'd think that they
and what shocked me was just I thought we were going to give Newhook one more year, at least one more year to try to change it, but I guess they just said,
it was
this
time
looks
to
like a
trade him.
lucrative
This was
deal.
his peak, trade. If he had another bad year, then his value would have decreased by a ton. And we kind of learned from Tyson Jost to where we didn't get stuck trading him for Nico Sturm, who plays a little bit and then kind of just fades off into nothingness. So it hurts, but I guess maybe it's better than Tyson Jost, where we keep him and he becomes like this point of argument online
kind of
as whether we hate him or love him. Yeah, and I'm excited for him. I have no ill will towards him, and I think this is the best for everyone. I think he's going to be able to flourish there at a better pace, a more appropriate pace with a growing team, a young team. He's going in there with Stanley Cup experience with a cup. I mean, he's going to be, one of the big dudes on campus there. It's going to be a lot healthier, I think, for his mental health also in finding a place where he fits in, because he just doesn't fit in the Avs timeline right now.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Alex, for what you have brought to the Avalanche. We wish you the best of luck in Montreal. But welcome, Ross Colton. Of all the things that could have been, it becomes Ross Colton, which let's look at last year's statistics. He missed only one game, got 16 goals, 16 assists for 32 points. So this one is he can easily be another 20 goal, 40-point player that you can put on that third line. And now all of a sudden you have Miles Wood, Ross Colton as two of your three on that third line, which is phenomenal. We've bolstered that right back to kind of being that beefy third line that we're all excited about.
And we don't have so he did just what do you say, they declared that they were going to arbitration today. I don't think it's any huge concern. I would imagine they might even settle before arbitration even begins. So we'll see how that goes. I'm curious as to what he wants, but I don't know what his last contract was, but hopefully we'll see that resolved before they even have to actually get into arbitration. I don't think
so. His last contract, he was at $1.125 million.
Okay, so and the thing is, while we have hope for him, he hasn't had insanely successful career. He's not a super high goal scorer, so whatever he's going to arbitration for isn't going to be that much money. Seeing us take
I see this as kind of like a $2.5 million deal, maybe like a 4-year or something like that, because he was at 1.125 his last contract with the Lightning. So 2.5, maybe 3, but somewhere in there is where I'm thinking he's going to be at for maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe 5.
Yep. 3 years seems to be about the sweet spot right now for people that you're invested in, but not part of your core.
Yep. So we're saying this under the assumption that arbitration, they come to an agreement, everything's fine. He doesn't go out to real free agency, because that would be kind of dumb if he just does.
That just doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't.
There really shouldn't be any reason for it to go down like that.
Yeah. So I'm like, if you pay him the same as Miles Wood, 2.5, I think that's perfect, because he's right around that same area where you can bring him to be a 20-goal, 40-point player. Right. So right on that third line center, he'll be an awesome addition. So we're just going to
solid depth. It's just so
good,
nice.
Solid depth. Yep, exactly. Okay. And then let's see. Did I miss? Oh yeah. There are a couple returning free agents. So which one do we talk about first? Probably the more...
we didn't talk about Drouin yet, did we?
Oh, no, we didn't. I totally missed that.
My favorite. That's the most exciting.
Sorry, that is the most exciting. I can't believe I just skipped over that. I'm looking right at his name, and then I was like, oh, but these two. So the Avalanche got out of free agency Jonathan Drouin of the formerly of the Montreal Canadiens, left winger, and they signed him for a scorching 1 year, $825,000.
But what's crazy
Which
is, so he
is
was
insane.
in that draft class, and they were drafted 1 and 3rd overall, respectively. So he's got a very high ceiling. This is something that us like fantastical, like romantic storyline lovers have been calling for, is for us to get Mac's boyfriend back, because these two tore it up with the Halifax Mooseheads together. This is Mac's boy. And I loved hearing that they said that they did consult with Mac a lot on this. They said that Mac was an honorary scout in this, and it's being taken into account that him and Mac were absolutely unstoppable together in their junior years. And his biggest issue that he's had has really been struggles with mental health. He had trouble staying in Montreal. He's had confidence issues with playtime, that it's, I'm sure, just been a revolving door. But having Mac on his team, and having a team that's very confident, and it's just a team that doesn't have locker room struggles, it'll be amazing to see what he can do. It will just be, and he said that Mac has helped guide him, even not on his team, through these last few years. So I am like, I seriously get goosebumps. This has like the ability to be one of the greatest comeback stories ever. If I was Montreal, I specifically wouldn't have traded him to Colorado so that we couldn't make this huge, fantastic narrative about it. But this could be the best storyline of the Avs in such a long time. So much more exciting than Nuke. I'm just beyond excited. And for $825,000, it doesn't even matter if he just goes out there.
You are making no financial risk. Yep. So, and I couldn't help but wonder, because, I mean, you look at his Montreal seasons, it just got progressively worse to a point where he was only playing half a season, couple of goals.
Yeah, I mean,
a good number of assists.
But that's, so his big thing is he's not a shooter, but he is like an elite playmaker, and that's what I was looking up, and it's so crazy. I was reading different stats on him. I can't remember whose stat compilation it was, but one of those dorks out there that does all that. But he's technically one of the NHL's top 5 forwards in creating scoring chances 5-on-5 in the NHL, and like that is. We need 5-on-5 goals.
And you put that together with Rantanen and Makar and McKinnon out on the ice.
Exactly. If he can get those guys the puck, and he is great. He has great statistics when it comes to breaking out of the zone. And it's just it's nice to have people that aren't worried about being the ones that score the goals. We have people that can shoot. Rantanen's got one of the most incredible shots ever. So if we can have somebody get him the puck while he, does his usual like little tantrums and all of his stuff he does that make him a little bit late to the zone sometimes, if the puck's there waiting for him set up perfectly, it's going to be a real good time. I am super, super excited about it. Yep. I don't know if we anticipate putting him with Mac, but I don't think that he's with Mac.
I would really want him to, actually, believe it or not, because that's, you're talking about him losing confidence or something. That's one way to get it back is, because you look at the time he was with Halifax with the Mooseheads.
Yeah.
There were 2 seasons with over 100 points with him and McKinnon. Right.
And it is nice. He plays left wing and he plays some center. So in a bind, it's not going to be ideal, but we need center.
So in an ideal situation, though, if you really want to create the best scoring chances, the most points out of this, out of the, I guess you could call it a new 3-headed monster if it ends up being that, with Landeskog out of the lineup for this season, is you put Drouin, McKinnon, and Rantanen on the same line, that first line, and it has the potential to be jackpot.
Yeah.
And this is something that, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but he was one of the guys that I mentioned on the last episode to keep an eye on. Was Jonathan Drouin, and I even put the post out before free agency hit saying keep an eye on,
if there was
other
ever
names,
a time
Jonathan
for a guy to be hungry, this is it. Like, this is a make your money, prove that you belong here. This is a year where he's going to make or break his career, whether he stays with the Avs after this or not, or if we can just be a stepping stone in his journey to grab a cup and then go get a real contract somewhere else. I'm totally fine with either, but he's got to be so hungry because this is the chance of a lifetime. And when I listen to him talk, he knows it and he is so excited for it. And I just, I want it to work so bad. It honestly hurts.
I'm very excited for this. Yes, I agree completely. So yes, very much so. I can't believe I just walked
That's
right
okay.
over that one.
So
That was the biggest one too. So welcome, Jonathan. I know all three have, all the ones that we have talked about have already expressed their excitement to be here.
Yeah.
We're excited to have them. I do want to actually, before we go into these other two signings, I do want to go into the other one we traded for, Ryan Johansson. I talked about it when it was just me the last episode, but I want to get your opinion on this one as well, because he is a new face, right?
Was I not here for the Ryan Johansson talk?
I don't think so.
I'm super stoked.
I can't remember.
I think I was, but I'll just go over it again. I'm really excited for it. I think he's going to do great. I think he's going to fit in great. I'm comfortable with all of it, really. I think that he's a big old boy, and I think, with him on the second line, I think him and Nuke, I mean, that could just be a terrifying line of large men that can still somehow skate. I'm really excited for it, and I think that's, as far as like stability and trustworthiness and how it'll pan out for sure, I think that's probably our best move that we've made so far, that we know it's going to be a very stable move. I think Drouin has the possibility to be the biggest diamond in the rough, but I think getting Ryan Johansson was really awesome, especially at $4 million. It's just not a lot of money, especially when
the whole trade. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's okay.
The whole trade was just, it's a win-win, even though if you take it at face value, the Avalanche just absolutely pulled the wool over Nashville's eyes, right? Like, it's not even close, because they traded away Galchenyuk, who then just took off for Arizona because they were keeping him.
They're doing is so freaking weird, man. I don't know what Nashville's doing.
Well, and you saw what Nashville has done. They were trying to get rid of Johansson and Duchesne for a while now. They left
get rid
them
of
both,
Duchesne and then just take O'Reilly, and it's like, have you guys ever read?
I know
history. Like, you just
took away their teammates. Like,
yeah, it's really
but so now Duchesne's off to Dallas.
So
we land Johansson, and Galchenyuk walks off to Arizona, where he kind of goes full circle, which is nice. And all the best part about this, kind of like with what you said, he's an $8 million dude, but we have Nashville retaining half of the salary, which they'll just probably write off the books.
Yeah.
So he's easily a 60-point type player, 30 goals a season type thing. I bet you we could squeeze more out of him. I'm excited because he's that second line center that we wanted to talk about, that we needed to have, and now he fills that role. So you look now at that top six with Landeskog out. You have Lehkonen, McKinnon, Rantanen, Drouin, Johansson, Nichushkin. You can even take that a step further. Why not go three lines? Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Logan O'Connor. Like, that's insane. That is a wonderful first nine right there. I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know it's a different team altogether. Now that I like different
just
faces.
Sleep better at night with that 2C handled. And I'm so glad that they did that first. Because if they would have done everything else and we just kept wondering, okay, what are they going to do? It would have been exhausting to wait for this to happen. So,
and keep in mind, I still think the Avalanche are going to make 2 more signings.
Yeah,
2, maybe 3, just because you have your top 3 lines for offense. It's just solid. It's perfect, right? I think they sign at least 1 more for your 4th line, maybe 2. And a defenseman.
Yeah, I think so I don't know. Do you want me to go over really quick just some of the people that we did re-sign? So we sent qualifying offers.
Yes, let's go into that.
The ones that we didn't were kind of interesting. But we did end up signing Mr. Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson will never ever go
back.
away. So I am of the mind that I would like to see us get another defenseman and have maybe Jack be that 7th or rotating with someone else at the 7th. I prefer he wasn't the end all for the end of our defense, though I do trust him. I'm not sure if we plan on utilizing Brad Hunt a lot or how, exactly how we plan to have that plan out. But I'm trying to see. We also re-signed Cogliano. So we've got that one down. Cogliano was a very cheap contract. I think it was $825. Is that what it was? 1 year. Curious to see how healthy he is next year. I just assume that he'll be healthy forever. So we'll just keep signing him 1-year contracts for the next 25 years.
Yeah.
We sent qualifying offers to Byram, Ross Colton, Ben Myers, Annanen, Sampo. And I know we've got the Bo deal done. Ross Colton, we're going into arbitration, possibly. I don't know if we've re-signed Ben Myers or Annanen yet. I believe if not, they completely anticipate coming back. And then Sampo, we did retain his rights, but he has left to go play in Sweden, which honestly I think almost might be better for him. He seemed to struggle with the Eagles last year. I'd like to see him develop, and I just hope he can develop better in Sweden and come back and play. I want to keep him. I was worried for him this year. I thought he might be a little bit of a trade asset, but I think he played too poorly even in the AHL last year to be much of a trade asset. So hopefully spending even 1 year in Sweden, he will come back ready a little more NHL ready. He doesn't make NHL decisions, it seems. And then the people we didn't see qualifying offers to, Dennis Malgin, which still just really, really surprises me. He's shifty, but he just seemed like for what he was, he was getting paid, he was just worth it. Just a value guy to have around. So he hit free agency. I haven't heard of him signing anywhere else. So it'll be interesting to see if we just sign him on free agency. His qualifying offer, I don't even know what it was or if it was that high. And then we didn't send Ryan Merkley a qualifying offer, which I know that they struggled greatly with his attitude, his on-ice stuff. He didn't even play with the Eagles much. They scratched him through the entirety of the playoffs. I just don't think that they liked him at all. And I don't think that the Sharks liked him at all, because he was like, he was a first-round pick, and I think he was like 17th overall or something. That he was a throw-in with the Sharks trade for Nieto. So I don't know. There's something about him, but Sam Malinsky, who is the college free agent that we picked up, came in and immediately took his job on the Eagles. And I don't know. It's weird. But Malinsky is also a free agent. So I don't know if the Avs don't re-sign him. I don't really know how that works for sure, but I don't know. Ryan Merkley's not a hard loss. I was hoping that maybe he would change, but it sounds like it's really not possible.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So just like looking at possible people that came back, and Cogliano, he's back, right? So with what you see in the lineup, because just like with what you said with Jack Johnson and Cogliano both returning, it's nice because they have that veteran presence, but I think age is starting to become one of those factors. So that's where you need to start to look at those types of, I guess, young blood, so to speak.
Definitely.
So when you talk about defense or something like that, there's Walensky, like you talked about. I thought something like a Nick Holden or even like Oscar Clefbaum could possibly be a thing, because they're kind of up there in age, but they haven't been to a point where they are getting their highest contract. Maybe their production shows it's a little lower. That one would shore up their defense, because ultimately you're just looking for someone that's going to pair with Josh Manson.
Well, and it was definitely a praise the Lord that we got Bo Byram, even on just a bridge contract. He is going to prove that he can stay healthy for the entirety of at least one season, and then he's going to make pretty much whatever he wants us to pay him. We probably will come his next contract, but thank God he's staying. I love that.
It's great.
And that
I love it.
Our defense is so young and good. I mean, it's kind of like spread in half. We got the old half and the young half, and Josh Manson's the oddball in the middle, I
guess. So I like I said, I think they make one move for defense to pair with Josh Manson, and they make two more, because I think it's going to be like a Ben Myers, Cogliano rotate in, and you maybe get one more guy, because right now on Cap Friendly it says Frederick Olofsson is going to be in, which that's probably not going to be the case. It could, but
I mean, these prospects have to become NHL players, so it's weird,
and keep in mind we still have Brad Hunt, right? So maybe we just give him the promotion and grab somebody who will go up and to the Eagles or something.
I would love to see Foodie come in. I don't know. I just don't know if Bednar doesn't love him. I feel like Bednar kind of has guys that he just never fully falls for, and it feels like Foodie kind of fits into that. But I hope that his time is soon, because as much as I love Brad Hunt, we got to get these guys up and get them established in the NHL so that it's a forward trajectory instead of a constant like reassessment, so we can not worry about like, is Jack Johnson coming back? Can Cagliano come back? Is Helm coming back? All these, it feels like we have too many old guys, questionable old guys. I really hope that we see Foodie come up and actually get some real time, because I really think that he earned it, and he's just really unlucky. I've not a very lucky guy.
Yeah. So, you look at that fourth line, and like I said, Foodie, I think, should he prove himself, because that fourth line, that's kind of what it was that year we won the cup, was we had the solid 3 lines.
Right.
And then that fourth line was just kind of a rotating
machine, and that's okay.
And maybe that's what we do.
Mix and match until we find what's hot when the playoffs come. And that's it just depends on who hits when the playoff time gets there, and we roll with whatever's good.
Yep.
And maybe it would be nice if we could get some guys to come up and stay with us so that the Eagles could like actually keep Brad Hunt on their team the whole time. They could maybe have a longer than 15 minutes in Loveland, because I'm sure that they would appreciate having an actual roster that's not a revolving door. So I don't know. I always feel bad for them, especially with them having a new coach this year. We'll see how they do with the prospects. It'll be interesting.
Yep, I totally agree. So, okay, well, that took up all the time. So we'll have to go do our Hockey 101 on Monday. The schedule was released. We'll talk about that on Monday as well.
So we will plan for Monday. Will probably be a long one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have it about the same amount of time, but just there was so much to talk about. But that was the big meat and potatoes. The schedule's not going anywhere. Hockey 101's not going anywhere. We'll come back with another player spotlight. So we just kind of have to cut this in half, it looks like, and then just do our part 2 on Monday. So we're not going 2-hour long episodes. So I think that's a good place to end. We'll go into a little bit deeper if we have time for those people that we did sign, or possible lines that we could see. We'll come up with something for you guys on Monday.
I mean, I'm curious. So like Allie and Tim, a couple people asked where they think people fit in the lines, and it's a very interesting topic right now, especially what if Gabe comes back in the playoffs. So I mean, comment the lines that you think, and we can mull them over and we can talk them over next week. I'd be curious to know what you guys think, how those lines fit, and also like the very few free agents that are left, what you guys think they might be picking up, because there's not a lot of options, but some very interesting options. And Lord knows they won't pick any of the ones that we think they will, but it's still fun to talk about.
That's exactly right. And then our Hockey 101 lesson, we're going to be talking about major penalties. So we'll get to that on Monday as well. But for right now, we'll wrap it up. So just like Brit said, go ahead and DM us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads. I'll even throw a Threads out there.
I gotta figure out
now I can. That's a new platform, so I'm kind of excited to see. I guess it's like Instagram's version of Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it boomed essentially because Twitter purposefully broke itself during the NHL.
My wife and I are still so upset with that. That it was like the one day we're waiting for all this free agency news.
Listen, I don't give a crap about Twitter.
We couldn't do it.
The day of the year. There's literally no other time that I could care if Twitter's down. It's whatever. But
if it's free agency, that's when that you need to have everything. So I was relying on all kinds of places for.
Yes,
for
that shortened a lot of NHL like media people's lives going through the stress of that day.
It really did. So I might even so go on to Threads, make an account. It should be linked to your Instagram, but then I'll throw a Threads out there and you guys can comment away on what you want. But I think for now we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you once again, everyone, for watching this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. Like I said, we'll go ahead and talk about all the rest of their stuff that we had in the chamber on Monday's episode, but we wanted to at least get one in this week, talk about the free agents, talk about the signings, the draft, everything, but we'll get into even more stuff on Monday. If you like what you saw, you can follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows just like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live, so you can get notified there. You can also follow us specifically, like I said before, on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Clusterpuck Avs, and then on Facebook at the Clusterpuck Podcast. Anything else you want to add, Britt?
No, I don't think so. I could talk an hour about Duran alone, so
maybe we do that. So thank you once again, thank you once again, everybody. Hopefully you guys have a great Friday, a great weekend, and we'll see you right after that on Monday. And as always, go Avs go.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every